So Flywheel's been working with Znode for a couple of years now. For us, we got really excited when we got to know Znode. I mentioned at the beginning of the day, because they focus specifically on the B2B part of e-commerce. One of the things that we do is focus on the content kind of story that Kathleen just shared, and thinking about how to bring that into a commerce experience as well. So we're going to get to know a little bit more about that space from Tom, Chief Commercial Officer at Znode. Thanks for coming, Tom. The stage is yours.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Great. Well, nice to meet everyone. Great to be with you today. I'm going to jump in here a little bit. As Scott just said, my name is Tom Fleural. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Znode and our parent company, Amla Commerce. And I'll give you 2 minutes on my background. I grew up in the digital agency space, and I actually worked with a lot of outdoor lifestyle brands. So the first part of my career was largely working on e-commerce strategies with direct-to-consumer brands. The agency I worked at, we worked with Trek, Wolverine, like big household brands. And about 8 years ago, I transitioned into the B2B e-commerce space, and I've been doing that ever since. The company that I work for, we have more than one product. So our parent brand is called Amla Commerce, and our two products are Artify. And Artify actually allows for the ability to upload logos and actually put them in a real-time shopping experience on products. So think about Lands' End. They have a large business uniform division. Artify allows a customer to upload a logo or choose from a logo library, put it on their, maybe it's an airline pilot uniform, and actually in the shopping cart experience see the full customized product before they click the buy button. And then our other platform is Znode, which is a leading B2B e-commerce platform. And today I'm going to talk a lot about B2B e-commerce primarily, so I'm not going to focus on Znode, but I'm going to use Znode experiences as part of my examples. So like everyone, I'm using AI, right? So as I'm preparing for my speech today, I went to Copilot. That's my go-to for AI, although like everyone else, I do test the other platforms. I'm like, I have to talk about ROI for e-commerce. Let's see what AI gives me. And you can see maximize ad spend efficiency, optimize the marketing funnel, et cetera. All of this to me feels very much like a B2C approach to B2B e-commerce. So, and I also think coming out of that B2C background many years ago, it's wrong. I would argue brand matters as much as anything. I talked to my 15-year-old daughter. She probably spends more online on clothing than all of us combined in this room. And she actually, I said, so how do you shop? And she said, oh, Dad, there's only 3 brands I like: Brandy Melville, Lululemon, and Hollister. So she doesn't really surf the web looking for clothing. She goes to the brands that she really loves. So I think a lot of these ROI components, at least in the B2C world, have as much to do with strategy, brand strength. I could give you an opposite story. Our headquarters is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Kohl's. I don't know if there's Kohl's in Canada. There are, okay. Kohl's a clothing store. No, okay. Very large retailer in the United States. And they have basically been using couponing and discounting for the last 20 years. And they serve families. They serve, I would say, middle-class families. They can't really fulfill well on an e-commerce strategy because they've eaten up all their margin with discounting, that their e-commerce doesn't matter anymore. So there's different strategies in B2C. But today we're going to talk a little bit about more B2B. And there's differences in B2C than B2B. Probably the biggest difference is that in B2C, you have users. You're marketing one-to-one to individual users. There's a single, usually small catalog. There's only one price list, MSRP pricing. Everything off pricing then is discounted through promotions. And there's very limited integrations to back-end systems like ERPs. You're basically just pushing your order into an ERP or a WMS and the order is going out. B2B is much more complex. B2B isn't about just users, it's about accounts. Everything is about accounts. You're marketing to organizations. And those organizations sometimes fit profiles or segments. So we had Scott Brinker from HubSpot up here. Obviously, account structure really matters a lot, and then having profiles of accounts and serving the right information to those accounts or those profiles. Sometimes that's catalog and specific data. A lot of it is priceless. A lot of it is 50-year-old contract rules that are now in a B2B experience that need to be exposed. And then lots of integrations into third-party systems, whether it be a CRM, it could be one ERP. In big manufacturing and distribution companies, it could be 5 ERPs. So there's lots of complexity when it comes to B2B e-commerce. I keep talking about personal stories. I learned more about e-commerce growing up because my dad was an MRO purchasing agent for a $300 million manufacturing company. And he didn't think of his job as being a shopper. He was a buyer. His job was to keep the shop floor open because downtime, and this was in the 70s and 80s, was about $1 million per hour of lost productivity. With inflation today, that's probably $3 to $4 million per hour, right? So he didn't have time to walk down aisles of distribution centers and branches at distributors. He had about 200 catalogs behind his desk, and his job was when a part went down or when any sort of machine went down, he would have a replacement part either in stock or he'd have a distributor who would deliver it to him within under an hour as part of his business contract rules to make sure that the shop floor was back up and running. Today, those 200 catalogs are now in an e-commerce platform or multiple e-commerce platforms from the distributors he would be working with today. So when we talk about boosting ROI, I am going to focus a little bit more on B2B and B2B digital commerce experiences. So let's jump in a little bit. I think about manufacturing ROI. It's a little bit of a pun because it's B2B. So what are some of the components? That was such a bad joke. I didn't even get smiles on that. Come on, people. So what are some of the components of ROI in B2B? This is interpretable. When I think about it, it's really 3 things. It's adoption. In B2C, people talk about customer experience. In B2B, it's adoption. Manufacturers and distributors already have hundreds, if not thousands, of customers. Those customers need to be able to use the website because it's very easy. It's about operations. A lot of ROI can be driven by operations by replacing people and processes and automating. And then finally, I work for a software company. I'm going to say that technology is the backbone of all ROI in B2B e-commerce. So I'm going to actually just walk through a couple case studies and give you some examples of exactly how this all comes together. And these are customer stories of Znode customers, but there's many, many stories out there. But again, everything I'm going to talk about is B2B or B2B2C e-commerce, because in B2B, a lot of times there's multiple tiers of distribution, different customer types, and so I'm going to hit on some of these as we walk through this as well. School uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger. How many people in the room have children that go to school, grade school, high school? How many of your kids have to wear uniforms? Okay, just Scott's. Okay, Scott, I'm with you. My son goes to Catholic school, so he has to wear a uniform every day. And basically, in the United States, the biggest owner of that market share is Lands' End. And Lands' End goes to schools, and they create a program. So these companies don't even talk about e-commerce. They talk about programs. So Lands' End creates a program with our school administrator, and they say, you know, whatever, boys of this age or age level or in these grade levels have to wear either khaki or blue pants, a green shirt, it's got to have the logo on it, go down the list, right? So Lands' End is a huge company, multi-billion-dollar company. Their big challenger was School Uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger. School Uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger actually was only founded about 5 years ago. It's a licensee of the Tommy Hilfiger brand. And it's a former Lands' End executive who actually came in and started the company. So when they came to us, they had under $5 million in annual revenue. They were very much a startup, and they were basically bleeding cash because they were spending so much money on creating an e-commerce experience that basically would change the market, that school administrators could adopt to and that parents could adopt to. And so when you think about some of the easy parts of adoption, you can see that I have search on there. Parents can come to the site and they can actually quickly look for their specific school uniform. If it's a parent who has kids at multiple schools that have uniform programs, they want to be able to create one shopping cart across multiple different schools. That's kind of the easy part of adoption. And that's actually a mom or a dad, the customer. But what their business model isn't selling to those people. The business model is selling to the school administrator. So how did they use technology to basically not only drive adoption, but to increase operational efficiency and actually to disrupt the market? Unlike Land's End, which signs up a program and then mails out catalogs, they said, you know what? We're going to stand up your own specific school catalog where you can filter by all of the different variables, size, grade level, uniform level, et cetera, and we're going to be able to publish that in like 3 hours after we sign the program. 100% of their revenue comes through the platform now. Their return rate, I believe, is under like 2%. So they've driven operational efficiency through e-commerce. They don't have to print catalogs. When they go to the president of a school or they go to a school administrator, they're not telling the story of we're just going to put together a program and mail catalogs. They're actually saying, let's put it together in a spreadsheet. Their sales reps go back, hand that CSV file to their operations department, who uploads it into the platform, and within a couple hours they apply logos and they are back out to market immediately and parents are buying online. So they went from spending over $3 million per year on technology to make this work with their original platform, now spending about 10% of that per year. They've disrupted the market. They went from $5 million to over $35 million in revenue in 5 years because of the technology behind the platform. But think about the margin capture just in the cost of the platform alone, as well as capturing new customers by having disruptive technology. I'll give you another one when we talk about adoption. And this is, again, disruptive is what I'm going to get to in the story here, but think of easy things. So Polyconcepts North America, or PCNA, is a billion-dollar supplier of promotional products. They're one of the largest in the world. They're the largest in North America. And their business model is they sell to mom and pop distributors. No more than 10% of any of their orders comes from any single distributor. So they have a very broad set of distributors that are smaller. And they have two different ways that they go to market. A distributor could be bidding on, it could be an event like today, right, where there's swag, and that distributor basically wants to be able to stand up a store, order products, or put together a program for this event. So the first thing the distributor does is they go to pcna.com and they use search. And they're not just searching for products, they're searching for specific products, but they want to know, is it in the price range for the budget of the event? Is the quantity on hand? A lot of people are planning events in the last 2 weeks. They want to know how many people are going to attend before they buy all the water bottles, right? So inventory matters a lot. They've completely used search to drive that experience. Now, what's interesting about their B2B experience is that only about 8 to 10% of their revenue occurs online, but 83% of the attribution for their revenue comes from their e-commerce experience. They have Znode connected into another CRM. I won't name it. It's not HubSpot, but it's one of HubSpot's main competitors. And any time that one of their distributors logs in and creates a shopping cart, it automatically creates an opportunity in the CRM. The sales rep for that territory or for that distributor calls them up and says, hey, are you bidding on a project? Do you have something big going on? Let me help you with this. And they start to work on the shopping cart together in the platform to drive sales. So that's about bringing offline, online together and about adoption, but there's an operational piece here. So in that particular market where they sell through distributors, again, these are small mom and pop distributors. They're not very sophisticated. Could be a company as small as 1 person to maybe 10 people on average. They also do sell to some very large distributors, but a lot of their money comes from these smaller distributors. In the past, the distributors would go to these smaller platforms. There's a platform called Order My Gear, and you can stand it up for, I don't know, $20, $30 a month, and you can turn it on and off very quickly. And they would bring in data feeds from multiple suppliers, and they would create a store, publish it. The problem is if you're a 1 or 2 person shop, that could be 2 to 3 days of lost sales ability, right? Because you're not technically oriented, it's a lot of work to find the products, bring them in. So Polyconcepts North America said, what can we do to enable our channels? What can we do to enable our distributors? Which again is like another big topic when we talk about B2B. It's not selling just to the end consumer, it's that middle B, it's that channel, whether it's Tommy Hilfiger selling to the school administrator, or here making sure those distributors are enabled to buy and sell. So they used part of our platform, we call it B Stores, it's the middle B and B2B to X business models, to allow the distributor to stand up their own store, create the catalog out of Polyconcepts North America's main catalog. They can actually stand up and publish a store in about 15 minutes. So that's operations, right? That's operations for their distributors that made their life much easier from 3 days of standing up a store to 15 minutes. But what's the ROI on all of that? They saw a 30% uptick in orders, and now they're owning that experience with those distributors and basically stealing market share from their competitors. It's a disruptive technology because their distributors don't want to take 3 days to stand up a store anymore. So they have like a much greater loyalty base from their distributors. And again, 30% increase in revenue through that channel. Talk about adoption again. And by the way, with B2B, sometimes it's hard to show case studies because things are behind login. There's a lot of gated sites. So I show some big brands, but I can't show everything behind it because a lot of it is under NDA and a lot of it also just is more difficult to access. But I'm going to give you another example of adoption. So, and we're going to get to ROI as well. Has anyone heard of Hyster-Yale? They're one of the largest forklift manufacturing companies in the world. Publicly held, about $3 billion. They sell globally. And they're a roll-up of actually 5 brands. There's a Hyster brand, there's a Yale brand. They actually have separate trucks for both of those brands. Some of it had to do with some non-compete issues and some things that they had to go through with antitrust. But basically their role with e-commerce, again, is now a B2B2B model. They sell to people like, my dad's not retired, but my dad would have bought parts for their Hyster-Yale Group forklifts. And he typically would call up the local dealer and say, our truck is down, can you get a new wheel here? Can you get a new fork here? Whatever the case was. And the dealer may or may not have that in stock, so what did the dealer do next? The dealer would call up Hyster-Yale and say, do you have this in stock? And they talk to an inside sales rep. And that inside sales rep had to go through an old AS400 green screen computer to find out what that part was by the serial number. 80% of their trucks are actually customized. And that whole process probably took maybe 2 to 3 days at the most, if not 2 to 3 hours. But go back to the original story. My dad's job was to make sure that downtime was never more than an hour because the cost of operations in a manufacturing company. So what happens today? Adoption is the customer, let's use my dad for example, goes to Hyster-Yale HY Source where he can buy parts. When he logs in, the screen he gets shows his local dealer because he's logging in based upon his account and there's a dealer assigned to his account. He can quickly type in the serial number of his forklift and he immediately gets a parts exploder and he can go to the specific part and order it and put it in the cart. When he hits buy, the dealer is immediately engaged, and if the dealer has it in stock, the dealer can drive it over. The dealer gets credit for the sale because Hyster-Yale Group has legal contracts where they can't sell around their dealers, so this is about dealer enablement. If the dealer doesn't have it in stock, it's picked, packed, and shipped from Hyster-Yale Group and sent immediately to the end customer. Again, I'm going to use my dad as the example. By the way, this is not the actual real parts exploder because of NDA, I can't show you their actual IP. But this gives you a sense of what that journey is like. So we talk about, where is the ROI in this? You're talking about 2 to 3 days of downtime for the manufacturer. You're talking about multiple phone calls back and forth trying to find the right part between the dealer and some inside sales rep. All of that has been replaced through automation now. I don't have dollar figures on this, but it's not insignificant. I'm going to give you one last one. Bradley Manufacturing. This is a Milwaukee-based company. They are a manufacturer of commercial plumbing equipment. And when you look at the stats in manufacturing, only about 10% of orders for manufacturers occur through e-commerce. And when you think of that, a lot of that is coming in from EDI, right? They work with larger distributors. Those distributors place an order via EDI from one ERP to another. Order comes in. So Bradley works with distributors that bid on big building projects. It could be a building like this, it could be a hotel building, and they want to win all the commercial plumbing parts of that project. It could be the stalls in the bathroom, it could be the sinks, it could be the toilets. They want to win these large bids. And so what they said is, well, what can we do operationally to make this easier for our distributors to win these projects? So they actually have a portal where their sales reps can log in and they can see all of their different accounts. And again, those accounts are distributors. Distributors can log in and they can create a new project and they can start to request quotes for that project. So now within a portal experience, they have their salespeople and they have their distributors in the same platform working to win accounts. So they've basically gone from very little online revenue to now almost 70% of their revenue is coming from the e-commerce platform. And again, it's a different experience than B2C because their sales reps are directly involved in the portal experience. They also, because of, I'm going to get a little bit into the technology, but Zenode is an API-first platform. They've replaced EDI with a lot of their distributors who have traditional e-commerce experiences, where an order is taken in by a distributor e-commerce platform via the API layer. It's automatically pushed into Zenode, picked, packed, and shipped, and sent out without anyone ever touching it. So how do they measure ROI? There's a bunch of ways. Obviously, they've pushed a lot of revenue now into e-commerce and away from people. The statement that their CIO made was that they no longer have to hire inside sales reps, and they don't have to replace inside sales reps in order to scale the business. And so think about that. When you think about inside sales reps in manufacturing, there are not a lot of 20-year-olds coming out of college saying, boy, I want to sit behind a desk with an old computer and work on quotes for a manufacturing company, right? These are jobs that are slowly going away. They've automated all of this, and as their workforce ages, they don't have to replace these people. So the ROI is in, true people power, HR recruitment, retention. And here's another odd statistic that they shared. In the past, because they're shipping pallets and truckloads of products to big job sites, they would estimate what shipping would be. And on some orders, they would lose money. On some orders, they would make money. They actually, through using quick API calls to a specialty shipping company, can now estimate shipping within under 2 seconds and bring it back into the front-end experience or that portal experience. They paid for the entire project in year one, just ROI on shipping alone. So, you think about that, like nobody thinks about, oh yeah, I'm going to save on shipping costs to pay for the entire new e-commerce project. But that's the power of having the right technology, having an API-first platform, et cetera. So again, we talk about adoption, operations. I've hit on technology a little bit. I think I have about 5 more minutes, so I'm going to go quickly for this. So how do you deliver ROI? I would say you can deliver it through technology, should be doing the heavy lifting. Here's what we see going on in the market right now, and I'm going to talk specifically about B2B e-commerce. 65% of companies will change e-commerce platforms in the next year. And by the way, every year there's a stat like this. Companies continue to buy platforms and they're not able to optimize it. And I think part of it is they don't have a clear sense for what's necessary to be successful in B2B e-commerce. A lot of times they're buying a B2C platform. It has a user structure, not an account structure. Or it has an account structure, but it's pretty limited. So there's like some basics that even go down to like the account structure. But I see 5 issues really affecting the market today. One is just outdated architecture and heavy customizations. I still see a lot of this, though, even with heavy customizations, companies buying B2C platforms. It takes 20 plugins to make the platform work. If one plugin breaks, it has a cascading effect where the site goes down, and they have to manage all of those different plugins. Speed to market, the ability to quickly stand up a new store or do something for a channel that you can do in days what used to take months. Multiple platforms and multiple tech stacks. Very common to see large manufacturers who may have 3 different e-commerce platforms. Their data is decentralized, like go down the list, right? Because when you think about it, they have to manage their product information across 3 different platforms as well now. Upgrades. Hopefully this is slowly going away as we get into more of a SaaS world, but in the B2B commerce space, there's very few SaaS platforms that actually are flexible enough to manage B2B e-commerce. And then finally, data management. This is something that is getting addressed quickly by AI. There are tools now where manufacturers and distributors can use agents and LLM models to actually quickly populate product information and distribute that to, or syndicate that to their distributors. Our platform does have AI for both product information as well as for SEO. So that is something that is slowly evolving as companies invest more in the right technology. But when we talk about delivering ROI, I think there's a couple principles that anyone thinking about B2B e-commerce has to consider. And Scott Brinker brought up the word composability. In my brain, B2B e-commerce has always been composable. So one, having basically the ability to connect to an API layer or microservices to do anything and having a composable platform. There is this big push in composability right now in e-commerce where platforms are coming out and they're saying you can do anything you want. It doesn't include a front-end storefront. It doesn't include a portal. I think there's a nice middle ground there where you can have accelerator kits to get you to market quickly, but those accelerator kits are extremely flexible. And the reason flexibility matters more than anything is that no 2 manufacturers are the same. No 2 distributors are the same. I just went through a number of scenarios that are B2B companies that have completely different business models, completely different contract rules. You have to be able to configure all of those. You have to have the flexibility for different front-end experiences, whether it's a portal or a store. Integrations, getting back to composability. Again, I think B2B has always been composable because B2B is so reliant upon ERP data. Could be one ERP or many ERPs. So not only having an API layer, but the ability to easily extend an API to manage the logging of any sort of data exchange between other platforms centrally matters a lot because you need a smaller team to do that at that point. Flexibility and scalability. I think the data model matters a lot in B2B e-commerce, and that's because personalization matters a lot too. And in B2B, it's very common that you can only show specific catalogs to specific customers or specific segments. I showed the school uniform example. When we buy a uniform for my son, it has to be his school colors. It can't be another school color, and it has to be the exact program specifications, which is kind of like a contract. So that one site has over 2,000 unique catalogs on one store. So think about the complexity of managing all of that with a very small team. School Uniforms by Tommy Hilfiger has 3 people in operations that run it, 0 technology staff. Great ROI story. But having basically platforms that are, and this is about Znode, but I would say these are principles that apply to anyone who's looking at B2B e-commerce. Configurability versus coding. Having a data model where you can easily manage data across stores and having the ability to manage multiple digital business models centrally so you don't have 3 different e-commerce platforms in your distribution company or your manufacturing company. Personalization is always behind login, so things like contract terms have to be configurable. My dad had 200 different catalogs behind his desk. He bought from 200 different distributors. Each distributor had a different contract with him. Think about the complexities of B2B. All of that has to be based upon user account or profile, login. They get the exact catalog and content that's specific to them, the right price rules. Typically, a good B2B e-commerce platform has unlimited pricing rules built into it, or price lists. Things like promotions, payments, terms. When my dad logged in, he would get his specific term. It might be cash on delivery or ACH. Another company may have credit card terms. All of that has to be unique based upon login and has to be configurable, otherwise you're spending a lot of money custom building. And then finally, data. So when we talk about AI, when we talk about anything, data is the most important piece of this. And data drives experiences in B2B e-commerce. It drives adoption, and it drives a lot of efficiency. So the ability to actually bring data from third-party sources into the e-commerce platform and storing it there. Because in B2B e-commerce, you may have distributors or dealers who have unique territories, right? And they may have within those territories different accounts, and those accounts have different catalogs. So where do you store the territory data, which may not be by zip code, it may be by some weird thing like a county ordinance or a city ordinance. There's so many different types of data. We often run into companies where they have their e-commerce platform, they have a CRM, and they have a SQL server somewhere else on site. The SQL server houses territory data. There's all these different places to store data. Centralizing all of those so they're very easy to access, and when you bring that data in, to be able to easily pull it into a front-end experience via API. And that is B2B e-commerce ROI in a nutshell.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions, anybody? There's one microphone at the back, and I've got this one up here if anybody has any questions for Tom or about B2B digital experiences.
So thanks for this. It was a nice presentation. I'm curious, how does tariffs figure into doing B2B?
That's a great question. So we were at B2B Online in Chicago a few weeks ago, which is one of the largest trade shows for B2B e-commerce. Tariffs were a hot topic, as you can imagine. From the perspective of people in the crowd, the number one concern they had was catalog management. I have to be able to quickly show products that are in stock and not in stock. I have to find new vendors who might be onshore versus offshore. A lot of that gets down to data management. And at that point, the data management isn't just about product information. It's literally availability. Can we have it? Can we not have it? We may need to upload new catalogs into the e-commerce platform and share them with our customers. So tariffs are, data management is at the core of managing tariffs right now. Oh, by the way, that also impacts price lists, right? There's that too. Absolutely. So the ability to grab price lists in the platform or quickly in your ERP, push into the platform and have the right pricing as well.
Do you think you can build a good digital strategy when you're 100% use resellers? Like you don't sell any B2B yourself. It's all distributor, i.e. like a beverage company. Is it possible to really lean in to this level when you don't own the final channel?
Yes, I absolutely believe it is. I think that's probably a bigger discussion unless everybody wants to skip lunch and we can stick around for an hour and go through it. But I do think it is because you're a reseller, but at the end of the day, the buyer ultimately wants to buy online is my assumption, right? I'm assuming you're selling to another business who's going to actually stock the inventory and sell it to consumers. Yeah. Who's the buyer? Probably millennial who's in their 40s, digital native, right? If nothing else, maybe you still have sales reps that call on them and they're still sending out or they're still creating orders, but those orders could happen in a laptop or an iPad in a portal, right? Rather than on paper and typing them in. So there's a lot of automation there. But also maybe that buyer every quarter has to send a report back to corporate and they want to quickly pull analytics on how much did we buy, how much did we sell, what were the promotions, what were the margins on the products so that we can validate we should keep buying those products. Even if you're a reseller, you need to be able to manage all of that easily. That's the operational efficiency, but it's also customer experience, right? It creates more adoption.
And Tom, I guess, speaking to the Znode platform specifically, it's API first.
Yes.
And so digital experience is not just about user experience here. It's about the transfer of information. It's about integration between ERPs and that kind of thing. So, if you're in a manufacturing situation or a reselling situation, being able to have a single portal to manage the catalog, manage the pricing, manage the rules, manage which ones apply to tariffs, and have that feed out through an automated integration is, I think, part of delivering the digital experience in that scenario.
I'd even go beyond that, and I don't know enough about the business model, but if you're selling to big box retailers, eventually they're going to want everything transacted via EDI. They still want to go to a portal and they want to see that data and they want to see the orders that even come in via EDI. So to me, it's all about bringing data together and making it easier for adoption, but also that's a lot of efficiency. You don't want to hire somebody to run reports for you. Good.
Any other questions? At the back there, Ollie.
Hi. So I have a question about the platform, the Znode. Is it like a partner development friendly platform where you have partners who develop on your platform, or is like a managed solution? Another question, um, uh, dealing with the B2B clients, and by pitching them to convert digitally, one of the key concerns that I always face from them is information security, because for manufacturer, the list of distributor, it's very precious to them. Even internally, they want to protect that information a lot, so they want to understand for every platform, whatever we are suggesting to them, the user rights, the information security, and even the people within the team should have information about all those channels and information on need to know basis. So does it incorporate that user level information security as well?
Yeah, I'll answer that in two separate parts. And first is yes, partner-driven ecosystem. Actually, Flywheel is one of our partners, so we have many partners that actually implement the platforms, or the platform. Two, I'm not sure I'm going to go deep enough on this, but yes, everything can be done via, we have CrowdStrike security built into the platform, Azure security built into the platform, all the way down to a user level. You can also have security and permissions at a role level. So let's say that Scott is one of the inside sales people who only works with this set of distributors. Only Scott gets to see that data via roles, and you can obviously track and audit Scott's actions if you need to using the data in the platform. I think that helps. And I could go deeper into security like SSO, et cetera, but I think, again, probably bigger conversation, but we can follow up on that.
But I also think part of B2B experiences here, coming back to what you said at the beginning about the account-based persona and the
Yes.
account-based experience. A lot of us are used to logging into our accounts when we shop and seeing our order history. When you log into a B2B platform, you see your colleagues' order history as well. So everybody's working as a team to do procurement, to even build proposals and go through the buying cycle. And you can have multiple logins, all sharing the same access to information and data to accelerate and optimize that experience.
And within that, you can have multiple layers within an account. You can have roles within an account to only show certain things. So, and
Yeah.
approval workflows as well.
Good question. Anybody else? All right.
Well,
Thank you, Tom.
Everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you.